Good evening, Mayor Robinson. We are good to go.
Thank you very much, Corporate and Community Initiatives Officer Hewlett. All right. Well, good evening, everyone, and welcome to the West Grey Council meeting for February 15th, 2022. On item number 1, I am calling our meeting to order. All members of council are present, with exception to Councillor Shea. He has advised that he will likely be arriving late to our meeting. This evening, we are using the revised agenda for the council meeting. And at this time, Corporate and Community Initiatives Officer, Cody Hewlett, could you please go through the electronic features of our meeting?
Thank you. And through you, before I begin, if at any point you get disconnected, you can dial 1-647-558-0588 and enter the meeting ID for this meeting, which is 847-6109-3158. Both members of council and staff have been briefed on the various features of the Zoom meeting software and will be raising their hands physically on camera to speak. For members of the public, if you require any technical assistance for the duration of the meeting, you can send a chat message to myself, Cody Hewlett, Corporate and Community Initiatives Officer, and I will attempt to assist you. It should be noted for members of the public that public participation, if any, must be done through the Zoom meeting software and cannot be done through YouTube at this time. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Item number 2, moment of reflection. If you care to do so, please take a quiet pause. Thank you. Item number 3, declarations of pecuniary interest and general nature thereof. At this time, members of council, is there anything to declare? We are now moving on to item number 4, delegations, presentations. In accordance with the West Grey procedural bylaw, each delegation shall be limited in speaking to not more than 10 minutes, and presentations that are requested by council shall have a time limit as determined between the clerk and the presenter. We have 1 presentation and 1 delegation this evening, beginning with 4.1 presentation, Director Mighton, 2022 budget. Good evening, Director Mighton. Please go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor Robinson. This is the presentation of the 2022 budget for the municipality of West Grey as recommended by council, which will be approved at the March 15th budget with the budget bylaw at that meeting. Next slide. So in summary, the 2022 tax levy increase is 7% or just over $785,000. This represents an estimated local tax levy increase of approximately $45.50 per 100,000 of residential assessment. We have a total operating expenditures of just over 16.1 million and 2022 capital expenditures of 16.6 million for a total of $32.79 million. Next slide. Where we're getting our revenue from, the tax levy is supporting this budget to the in the amount of 11.96 million. We have estimated borrowing of just over $8 million. Grants represent $4.9 million. User fees and other charges are $3.8 million. We're transferring from reserves just over $2.5 million. Other municipalities are contributing by $1.1 million, and we have interest revenue of $313,000, which represents our 32.79 million of revenues. Next slide. How we're spending our dollars. Corporate is $11.6 million. Transportation represents just over 9.3 million. Police is $4.2 million. Recreation, 1.46. Water and sewer, which are not funded by the tax base, they are 100% user fee funded, are $3.14 million. Fire represents 1.77 million. Waste management, 714,000, and library is 450,000. That equals our 32.79 million of expenditures. Next slide. As far as how the tax levy support by department goes, transportation represents just over $4 million from the tax levy. Police is 3.5 million. Corporate is just over $2 million. Fire, just over $1 million. Recreation, just over 900,000. Library, 399,000. And waste management, 91,000. And that represents our total tax levy for 2022 of $11.96 million. Next slide. Highlighting some of the projects that are included in this budget is the new police station tendering and construction to begin in the fall. Completion of the Lance Bridge, Bridge 28. 3 culverts are estimated to be replaced. The Garifraxa Street Connecting Link Bridge will be repaired. Playground upgrades will be completed in Ayton and Newstead. Fire service will have replacements of their self-contained breathing apparatus and compressor. The community improvement plan is continued for business revitalization. And the Elmwood Community Center will have presentation technology, pavilion upgrades, and a proposed parking lot expansion. And that concludes the summary of our 2022 budget as recommended.
Thank you very much, Director Maiton. And I wonder if we could return to gallery view. Thank you. Are there any questions of clarity for the presentation at this time? Director Maiton, thank you very much for your presentation. We are now going to move on to 4.2, delegation. Ernie Faulkner, Elmwood Community Center Board 2022 budget. Good evening, Ernie. How are you?
I'm fine, thank you.
All right.
Can you hear me? Okay.
Yes, we can hear you. The information is contained in the agenda. You have 10 minutes and please go ahead.
All right, well, thank you for allowing me to attend this meeting. I think I'm a little bit late to make any adjustments, but anyhow, I think you've gone over our proposed operating budget. What we did this year was the same as we had last year. We kind of assumed that we would have increased activity, hopefully, and things are looking up, so we may actually have more activity this year. As you can see if looking at the actuals and the budget information for the last few years, if we didn't need to spend the money, we didn't. So expenditures are sort of based on activity. If we don't have a lot of activity, the expenditures are kept to a minimum. There's obviously expenditures that have to occur regardless of whether there's activity or not at the building. We certainly did not spend what we had proposed in the budget either last year or the year before. So again, for 2022, we made assumptions that we would have an increase in activity somewhere throughout the year. And that's where the numbers come from. So I guess really, are there any real questions about what our operating budget looks like at this time?
Well, thank you. I just want to confirm, Ernie, that is your delegation at this time then?
Yes, well, and the capital. Okay. Sorry, I want to speak a little bit about the capital.
Oh, please go ahead. And then after your presentation, I'll just ask members of council if they have any clarifications. Go ahead, you're doing really well.
All right, thank you. So this year, we've put together a capital proposal. We actually have a longer term outlook for capital expenditures over the next few years. But this year, we had looked at finishing off the pavilion upgrades. Last year, we submitted a request and that was approved to do the flooring in the pavilion. We actually hope to do more, but with the price increases for COVID, due to COVID, we were only able to do the flooring. That hasn't been completed yet, but the materials are ordered and apparently they're somewhere in the spring, they'll actually arrive. So we'll have the flooring upgraded. But at the same time, we need to remove all of the cabinetry from the inside of the building. So our next project would be to replace that cabinetry as right after the flooring is done. So that's why it's important for us to complete the upgrades inside the pavilion this year. The other capital request is for additional parking spaces. With the improvements to the road, concession 10, outside of the pavilion, it's going to severely limit people parking on the road, which was happening when we had major events like Farmers Week. So to increase the parking, and that would be not removing any grass or sorry, not paving over the area, but just removing the grass and graveling it so that it's a nice solid base for people to park on. And that would go down along the laneway that goes back towards the ball diamonds. That would help us improve parking facilities at the center. And as we had been looking at an accessibility grant that Brockton had brought forward, unfortunately that was not approved. So if you saw the information on that proposal, that's not going to go ahead. I guess that's it.
Okay, thank you very much. And thank you very much for the presentation and for all the hard work the Elmwood Community Center Joint Board is doing. I wanted to pass that on to you, Ernie. Members of council, any questions of clarification with respect to this delegation? Councillor Hamilton.
Well, Mayor Robinson, I just wanted to extend a thank you to Ernie for coming to West Grey Council today. He has newly assumed the role of chair for the Elmwood Community Center Board, and we really appreciate his volunteering and leadership in this capacity. Thanks for coming today, Ernie. Thank you.
Thank you. And just for everybody to know, Councillor Hamilton is the council rep on the Elmwood Community Center Joint Board. Ernie, thank you very much. Appreciate your time and look forward to seeing you. Most certainly wing nights. Those are quite popular. Okay, take care.
Bye.
Bye now. Members of council, we are now moving on to item 5, public meetings. For this particular agenda, it is an NA. Item 6, comment period. In accordance with the West Grey procedural bylaw, comments may be made to council with respect to a specific agenda item. A maximum of 2 minutes per person is allotted for comments, with a maximum of 10 minutes in total for the comment period. Corporate and Community Initiatives Officer Cody Hewlett, could you please assist with this this item? Thank you.
Thank you, and through you, Mayor Robinson. My apologies. It should be noted for members of the public that public participation must be done through the Zoom meeting software and cannot be done through YouTube at this time, as mentioned at the start of the meeting. For members of the public who have called into the meeting, you can press *9 to raise your hand, and that will let us know that you would like to speak. Alternatively, if your hand has been raised in error, you can press *9 again to lower your hand. For members of the public who have joined us using the Zoom meeting platform, you can either send a chat message to myself, Cody Hewlett, Corporate and Community Initiatives Officer, either stating that you would like to speak or what you would like read into the record on your behalf. The second option for members who have joined us using the Zoom meeting platform is you can raise your hand, typically located in the bottom right-hand corner of your screen, or either a blue or yellow hand icon, typically under the reactions section. I will note, Mayor Robinson, that we have 2 members of the public stating that they would like to speak at this time, as well as I have received correspondence earlier today.
Pardon me, I had my mute on. With that, I wonder if you could open the mic for the individual that has 142 on their phone. Thank you.
Thank you, and I believe that is Ms. Radcliffe.
Oh, good evening, Marion Radcliffe. You have an opportunity to speak in comment period. Please go ahead.
Great, thank you very much. Greetings to Mayor Robinson, council, staff, and the public. Thank you for this opportunity to make comments on the staff report on dark sky lighting. I appreciate the work that Madam CAO Johnston and the West Grey staff have put into preparing this report. I have been in regular contact with them, And while we had a few communication hiccups at first, once we got going, I found them open and responsive to my input. I have read the staff report and believe it's a good start. My comments include some questions that I hope will be addressed during council deliberations. The report mentions the importance of avoiding excessive use of light and having lights pointing downwards, which covers 4 of the 5 points of good outdoor lighting, but not color, a 5th and equally important aspect of reducing light pollution. I would like to see this included in any standards. I am concerned about the failure to mention commercial lighting in the list of urban design policies, for example, parking lot lighting, business fronts, and greenhouses. However, it may be covered under one of the other points, and clarification would be appreciated. It appears the dark sky policy will be worded in such a manner that it is more of a guideline, less oriented to regulatory and relying on cooperation. It would be wonderful if we do get full cooperation from developers, businesses, and residents to reduce energy waste and light pollution. But if this fails, it is my hope that addressing light pollution will not stop with the official plan, that if needed, it is just a step towards the development of an outdoor lighting bylaw. Could a trial period for the policy with measurable goals be considered? Again, I appreciate the work staff has put into this report and look forward to working with them on the actual policy. CAO Johnson had mentioned the idea of forming working groups that include staff and interested citizens for specific projects. It is my hope there is support from council and staff to form one to ensure the best possible wording for this policy, or to provide other avenues to allow public input into the policy. In light of the current climate crisis and the ever worsening light pollution in our area, I hope that council today unanimously supports this report and the work still to be done. That's my say. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Marion Radcliffe. And that is in relation to a staff report, as you referenced, 11.1.1. And that is a report from our planner, Planner Spencer. So if there's any comments from our planner, they would be incorporated at that time for any response during that section of the agenda. Thank you very much. Supervisor Hewlett, could you please open the mic, if you will, for Bev Falco? And good evening, Bev Falco.
Good evening, Madam Mayor, Deputy Mayor, and councillors. I've got a couple of agenda items I'd like to speak on. The first is the same one Marion just spoke on, 11.1.1, which deals with preserving our dark skies and the celestial wonders that they provide. I was hoping to wholeheartedly 100% support this item, and then I realized it's not really going to accomplish what the Dark Sky Committee and the citizen promoting this had recommended. There's 2 excerpts that concern me, and they are, number 1, the urban design principles will be used primarily for guideline purposes, and their implementation will be less oriented to a regulatory approach. So the guideline purposes concerns me. The next is the official plan will provide policy direction to ensure that dark sky lighting is considered as part of any development or redevelopment. The Dark Sky Committee was assured that these very statements had already taken effect through the previous council. Unfortunately, they ultimately accomplished nothing, not what we're hoping. So there's so many solutions that we can put in place to illustrate our commitment to environmental stewardship and our commitment to being, quote, climate action leaders in our community, end of quote, as clearly stated in the brochure that accompanied our recent tax bills. So I too am happy with that staff has taken this on and has started the process. But I am hoping we can fine tune it a little. The second agenda item is 10.1.2. I just wanted to indicate my support for obtaining costing from Owen Sound Police as an additional comparative to the OPP costing. I think the more information we are provided, the more data we will have to compare against our current expenditures. And just on a minor housekeeping note, agenda item 13.1, which is bylaw 11-2022, my name is listed incorrectly as a member of the Climate Action Advisory Committee and should be removed. And that's it for tonight. Thank you so much, all of you, for your time.
Thank you very much, and good evening to you, Bev Falco. Corporate and Community Initiatives Officer, Cody Hewlett, you had identified that I believe you had an email to read out to members of council.
Yes, that is correct. We received correspondence earlier this evening, or earlier today, for an individual that couldn't be present for comment period.
Please go ahead and read it. Thank you.
So this email comes from Chris Palmer, and it states, Dear Mayor Robinson and members of council, as the author of the correspondence that helped to lead the report and recommendation on dark sky lighting that you will be considering today, I feel obliged to comment as follows. While I am pleased that the matter is now formally before you, and thank you staff for their efforts, I am concerned with the absence of any regulatory components to the recommendation, with no financial or staffing resources being attached to it. Of course, one would hope for a cooperative model involving developers, owners, residents, and the municipality to take root, but there is no guarantee of that. Given the seriousness of the environmental challenges we face, I would urge council to show leadership and take this opportunity to demonstrate they are committed to real action. When council declared unanimously that there was a climate change emergency in West Grey, we were sending a very clear message. Climate change is real. Here is your chance to adopt measures that are real as well. Kind regards, Chris Palmer.
Thank you very much for reading that into the record. I wonder if there are any other individuals, and as I was completing the statement, I do see that Ken Knox has his hand up. I wonder, Supervisor Hewlett, if you could please unmute Mr. Knox, and good evening.
Mr. Knox, you may be receiving a prompt on your screen that the host would like to unmute you.
Good evening, Mr. Knox. Please go ahead.
Thank you, Your Worship, for the opportunity to speak. My name is Ken Knox. I am the president of the North York Astronomical Association. I represent an active membership of around 40 members. We organize many events, not the least of which is an annual dark sky party in your municipality called Starfest for 40 years. The vast majority of Starfest fees go to pay for goods and services to business in the West Grey area, to the campsite, local pub for catering, lodgings, and the stores we use for supply runs. I have started to lobby for increased municipal lighting standards, as the value of having the event under West Grey skies has been deteriorating year by year and is requiring us to increasingly rely on better speakers during the day. I am more frequently having feedback from attendees about the quality of the night sky, and they threaten to not attend further Starfest. I'm asking for West Grey for improved municipal lighting standards and not just dark sky lighting, ensuring that new commercial, residential, and street lighting standards do more than just be able to see the Milky Way on a summer's night. Street lights and outdoor lighting on municipally owned properties, well planned, reduce the amount of electricity used, saving ratepayers money. Developers that have lighting layouts approved on the same principles save residents money when the developers transfer ownership to the new owners. Proper lighting planning can increase safety, as overlighting through glare can have, just as unsafe underlighting can have. Overlighting over rural and wilderness areas spills into other areas. Light trespass, as it affects animals in that area, including larger animals not being able to distinguish wilderness in the areas inhabited by humans. Finally, I ask that this council consider concrete regulations when completing lighting standards so that Starfest doesn't slowly fade away like the visibility of stars at Starfest has been. Thank you very much for the opportunity to speak.
Thank you very much, Ken Knox. Appreciate it. Corporate and Community Initiatives Officer, is there anyone else that has indicated they wish to speak?
For you, Mayor Robinson, just taking a quick review of the dashboard as well as the chat. I am not seeing any other members of the public wishing to speak at this time.
Thank you. Item number 7 then, unfinished business, that is an NA for this agenda. Item 8, adoption of minutes. 8.1, January 26, 2022 special council meeting. Members of council, are there any questions with regard to those minutes? 8.2, February 1st, 2022 council meeting minutes. Any questions on those minutes? Clerk Scharbeck, could you please read the recommendation?
Mayor Robinson, the recommendation is that the minutes of the special council meeting of January 26, 2022, and the regular council meeting of February 1st, 2022, are hereby approved as circulated.
Is there a mover for these minutes? Deputy Mayor. Is there a seconder for these minutes? Councillor Townsend. Any questions with regard to the motion? Seeing none, all those in favor indicate with a raised hand. 6 members of council have voted in favor of this motion. The motion is carried. Item 9, committee and board reports. 9.1, Elmwood Community Center Board, January 4, 2022 minutes. Are there any questions with regard to these minutes? Okay, before we go to the recommendation listed on the agenda, I just want to ask members of council if you have any updates with regard to your particular committees or boards. Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Mayor Robinson. Just a few buttons to click here. Yeah, just a couple of things. First off, I just want to announce that I was recently appointed as Vice Chair to the Grey County Mental Health and Addictions Task Force. That is a task force that was we'll be probably getting together within the next couple of weeks. I was also appointed the Vice Chair of the Grey County 22 Economic Development and Planning Advisory Committee. So that committee is working on climate action plan now for about 2 years, and a full version of the plan actually will be brought to Grey County Council in the very near future, which will roll out to be shared with West Grey and all the other municipalities. Another event was going on I just want to share is affordable housing is another one that's in our portfolio, and Grey County is committed to the 1% this year. That's annually, and this year it's around $600,000 that will be going into directly towards affordable housing. So that's always good news. Saugeen Municipal Airport, we are one step closer to completing the business plan, so probably we're on target. I'm guessing maybe by the end of March, which we hope to launch out. So that is moving along. We got a couple more meetings and that should clean that up. Other than that, I have nothing else to report. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Hutchinson, please.
Yeah, I just wanted to report out that this coming Monday is Family Day, and normally this weekend is Frazzle Fest weekend. The BIA usually takes a lead role on that, and so they have decided to do a number of activities. It was a bit of a last minute thing because of the COVID situation. So there's a number of activities that will take place. It'll be on Monday this year. Usually we do a weekend thing with the focus downtown on Saturday and then Family Day Monday at the Durham Arena. But unfortunately this year the arena is closed because it's Family Day, and I guess our staff have a holiday. But unfortunately, some municipalities do a lot of things focused around their community centers. I will be doing some road hockey there. There is some public skating on Sunday, not on the Monday this year. And the BIA is organizing a chili cook-off, some scavenger hunts around town. I believe Monday there will be snow sculpture contest and a few other activities. So check out the BIA webpage or Facebook to get more information. But there are going to be some activities basically focused outside, which is great. Hopefully it'll be a fun weekend. So that's coming up this weekend. Thank you.
Thank you. I am not seeing any other member of council wishing to speak. Councillor Hutchinson, would you mind taking down the electronic hand? Thank you. Clerk Scharbeck to the recommendation at hand. Thank you.
Through you, Mayor Robinson, the recommendation is that the minutes of committees and boards are hereby received.
Is there a mover for this motion? Councillor Hamilton, is there a seconder for this motion? Deputy Mayor, any questions with regard to the motion? All those in favor indicate with a raised hand. 6 members of council have voted in favor. The motion is carried. We're now moving on to item number 10, correspondence. Item 10.1, items requiring action. 10.1.1, Royal Canadian Legion, Branch 308, Durham, request to place veterans banners throughout West Grey. I see that this one requires a direction from council. How does council wish to proceed with this? Deputy Mayor?
Thank you, Mayor Robinson. I'd like to make a motion that West Grey staff works with the Royal Canadian Legion Branch 308, in particular the newly appointed Poppy Chair, on a veteran banners program, and a report be brought back to council for consideration. And I think this could work hand in hand with the existing banner program that we're working on.
Thank you. We'll just wait for Clerk Scharbeck to read back the motion, and I will look for a seconder. Thank you.
Through you, Mayor, I'll just request clarification from Deputy Mayor Hutchinson that council hereby directs that West Grey staff work with the West Grey Legion Branch 308 to, was that to develop the Legion banner program? Or, no, the rest.
Yeah, we'll just work with it's the Poppy Chair actually that's driving that one, but if you could work on a banner program, I guess a banner or a veterans banner program, and if we could bring that report back to council, because there's a few different things that they've been discussing, so I think there's more to it than making a decision here.
So through Mayor Robinson, I have moved by Deputy Mayor Hutchinson that council hereby directs that West Grey staff work with the West Grey Legion Branch 308 Poppy Chair to work on a veterans banner program and report back to council.
I see that Deputy Mayor is fine with the language. Is there a seconder for this motion? Councillor Hergert? Are there any questions with regard to the motion? Councillor Hergert?
I do have two questions, and maybe our CAO would be able to best answer those, and they might be in a report as I've just seconded. But I believe that the Hanover Legion is responsible for parts of Neustadt and Ayton, and their boundary lines, let's say, don't follow our political boundary lines. So I'm also hopeful to have an amendment to this, that it would be also working with the Royal Canadian Legion Branch 130 out of Hanover, so that we have full coverage of West Grey on a banner project, or in the fall when they place flags and so on, just so that we have that full coverage for West Grey. And I do appreciate Brian Carr reaching out to us, but just to be inclusive, I'd like to move an amendment that we also have staff reach to the Hanover Legion 130 to discuss the banner plan with them as well.
Clerk Scharbeck, could you address the amendment, and then I'll look for a seconder?
Yes, I'll just clarify through you, Mayor, with Councillor Hergert, that the main motion be amended by adding, and that Hanover Legion Branch 130 also be included in the banner program discussions. Is that suit? Okay.
That's perfect.
As indicated. Is there a seconder for this amending motion? Councillor Townsend. Any questions on the amending motion? All those in favor indicate with a raised hand. 6 members of council have voted in favor of this motion, the amending motion. The motion is carried. Before we go to the main motion, Councillor Hamilton, your hand is up.
Thanks, Mayor Robinson. I'm very supportive of this idea. Can I just check in with our CEO that the motion, the direction of the motion is clear for staff? It sounds to me like council's looking for a staff report so that we can make know what all the pieces of the puzzle are and know if there's a budget implication as well. But just that clarity from our CAO, please. Thank you.
Thank you. Madam CAO, please.
Good evening, Mayor Robinson and members of council. Thank you for the question. Yes, that's my understanding, staff, and I appreciate the opportunity for staff to look into this, what the logistics would look like, any financial costs, hardware that might need to be purchased, where banners are going to be stored, a lot of moving parts, as the deputy mayor had indicated. And Mr. Hewlett and I look forward to working with both legions on this.
Any other questions?
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions, members of council now? Clerk Charbot, could you please read the, oh, pardon me, Councillor Hutchinson, please go ahead.
Sorry, it doesn't have directly involve the motion, so I'll wait until after the vote. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for that. Clerk Charbot, could you please read the motion and I will call the vote then. Thank you.
Through the mayor, moved by Deputy Mayor Hutchinson and seconded by Councillor Hergert. The council hereby directs that West Grey staff work with the West Grey Legion Branch 308 Poppy Chair to work on a Veterans Banner program, and that Hanover Legion Branch 130 also be included in the banner program discussions, and staff shall report back to council.
Any questions, members of council? All those in favor indicate with a raised hand. 6 members of council have voted in favor of the motion. The motion is carried. So before we go on to the next item, Councillor Hutchinson, you had a question.
Yes, it sort of revolves around the idea of the banner program. I think it's worthwhile maybe sharing a little bit about our banner program in West Grey. We will be having a program this year as we come up with new banners last year that will be going up. So just so people understand that there will be a banner program, there will be banners up that will come down when the Legion banners go up. And maybe staff can clarify some of these things that I'm speaking of, but also because of the homecoming, the homecoming is asked and are going to be looking into doing something, whether it be flags or banners or something, and we don't know the exact how that's going to work yet. But there'll be some other things that'll be going up over the summer that will work towards the fall where the Legion one takes place. And maybe in the future, some villages have these banners up all summer long with the veterans on them. So maybe in the future, we can incorporate maybe some of the banners amongst some of the West Grey banners to sort of make it an annual thing or something. But anyways, maybe CAO wants to clarify or Mr. Hewitt in terms of the other banner program that's taking place also.
Madam CIO, is there something brief you could speak to, or could we have this included into your report?
Through you, Mayor Robinson, that's exactly what I was going to recommend. Is the report would address scheduling. We only have so many poles, and we have a lot of opportunities to decorate downtowns lately. So we'll incorporate that into the report back.
Thank you very much, and thank you, Councillor Hutchinson, for bringing that forward. 10.1.2. City of Owen Sound request to provide proposal for police services. This again requires a direction from council. Council, how do you wish to deal with this? Councillor Townsend.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I would like to move a motion that we do have at least a preliminary meeting with your body and any other representatives from Owen Sound Council that wish to attend, and to include Hanover in the same discussion to look at another opportunity to reduce our police costs. And I'd like to speak to it afterwards.
Clerk Charbot, could you please deal with the wording of the motion? I'll ask Councillor Townsend if he likes the wording, and then I'll look for a seconder. So one moment, please.
Through you, Mayor, I'll just confirm, I don't think I've caught all that quite, Councillor Townsend, that West Grey Council hereby directs that we have a preliminary meeting with Owen Sound Mayor Body and any other members of the Owen Sound Police Services Board, and that Hanover also be invited to this meeting. Is that, I'm not sure what type of meeting.
Okay. First of all, I hadn't actually mentioned the board specifically. I just said any other attendees that Owen Sound was preferring.
Okay.
And I did say, and to include Hanover, and I would say CAO and any other people that wish to attend. And I can elaborate after we get the second year.
So that was great. Council hereby directs that we have a preliminary meeting with Owen Sound Mayor Body and any other attendees that Owen Sound would like to attend, and that Hanover representatives also be invited to this meeting.
That's great. Thank you.
So Councillor Townsend, you're fine with the wording?
I am.
Okay. Clerk Sharbeck, when you get a moment, could you please read the motion again, and I'll ask for a seconder.
Through Mayor, the motion is that West Grey Council hereby directs that we have a preliminary meeting with Owen Sound Mayor Body and any other attendees that Owen Sound would like to attend, and that Hanover representatives also be invited to this meeting.
Is there a seconder for this motion? Councillor Hergert. Clerk Sharbeck, I'll be asking for a recorded vote. So now, are there any questions beginning with, or actually comments beginning with Councillor Townsend and then Councillor Hutchinson?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I did reach out to Mayor Body and have a discussion to see exactly where they were coming from. He did say that they have similar challenges and they have a process before to do it, and to actually go through this process gives us a second alternative to look at caustic rather than just OPP, and actually it would be again more local. So it is another alternative to look at that. I had also received a call from the CAO of Hanover a few weeks ago asking if we were going to do anything similar. They'd like to be involved, and so I asked Mayor Body if he was okay with that. Actually, he raised the issue of potentially looking at a sort of regional, without using the word region in the sense of a structure of region, but and therefore the Hanover, he would have no objection to them attending as well, which is why I included that. So again, you look at all the options that are available to you. We've been presented with another one, and if we don't use that one, then we only have the two, our current and whatever comes from OPP. This will give us something in between. So I thought it was a great idea. Thank you.
Councillor Hutchinson.
Yeah, I have a little concern with this motion at this time. I think I'd like to hear from the plan that we already have. We've already asked for our police force to give us information in terms of a business plan, a survey. We have OPP costing. We're putting money out to get OPP costing. So I'd like to see that first before we start reaching out. We haven't made any decision to get rid of our police force. All that we've said is we'd like to look at OPP costing is what has been asked. So I would like to look at what we have in front of us first before we start getting involved with bringing in other police force. That's a big onerous task. We went through that with Hanover Police Force some time ago. There's consultants involved, there's money involved, and it took quite a while to do that. And then, so now if you're going to bring in Owen Sound, you're looking at again a delayed. So we're well past election time. So I think this is something that, again, like it or not, I think it's going to become an election issue. And I really don't want to spend a whole lot of time on it at this point until we get some information back, at least from our own police force, and then we can compare that with OPP. As far as Owen Sound, I don't see how that could ever work given the distance and again, city policing is different than urban policing or rural policing, and that's one of my major concerns. So anyways, I won't be in favor of this at this time. Thank you.
Councillor Hergert.
Yes, thank you. I am curious if a member of the Police Service Board maybe could answer. Is there a requirement for policing or joint police boards to be contiguous? Meaning they have to be right next door. They're adjoining municipalities. I didn't understand that we could jump over a municipality to provide service. So Owen Sound would essentially be jumping over to provide us service. And I wasn't sure that was, I'm just seeking clarity.
I'm not able to respond to that question. That's an operational one and through the Police Services Act. So Your question's so noted. I don't have a response for that. Do you have any further questions?
I guess that matters to me and how I would vote. I mean, if they're not even able to, why would we spend time getting, trying to get information from them if they're not actually able to? Is our CAO able to provide anything for information?
Madam CAO, do you have a response to that?
Mayor Robinson, I'm sorry, Councillor Hergert, I'm not aware of any of those requirements. Happy to consult with those who may know, but I don't have an answer this evening.
Okay. Anything further?
Not at this time.
Are there any other members of council that wish to speak? Madam Clerk, could you please call the recorded vote? Thank you.
Through you, Mayor. Beginning the recorded vote. Councillor Hergert, how do you vote?
Councillor Hergert, yes.
Deputy Mayor Hutchinson?
Not in favor.
Councillor Hutchinson?
Not in favor.
Councillor, sorry, I was going to say Councillor Shea, but he's not here yet, is he? Mayor Robinson?
Not in favor.
Councillor Hamilton?
Yes.
Councillor Townsend?
Councillor Townsend in favor.
And that is a tie vote, so the disposition it is defeated.
We are now moving on to item number 11, staff reports. 11.1, Manager of Planning and Development. 11.1.1, Policy Dark Skies Lighting. So with that, Clerk Sharbeck, could you please read the recommendation?
Through Mayor, the recommendation is the council receives the report Dark Sky Lighting, Proposed Municipal Policy, and further that council approve the recommendation to incorporate dark sky lighting principles throughout municipal planning documents, including the official plan and engineering standards.
Is there a mover for this motion? Deputy Mayor. Is there a seconder for this motion? Councillor Hamilton. Are there any questions with regard to this motion at hand, Councillor Townsend?
Through you, Madam Mayor. I have a question regarding the regulatory versus guideline. I know we've talked about this before about having guidelines, and I thought one of the reasons it was a guideline is that we were not able to enforce through regulatory the actual lighting. And I wonder if we could have Madam Planner explain that or at least address that question for us. Thank you.
Planner Spencer, please.
Thank you. And through you, Madam Mayor, under the Municipal Act, the municipality is certainly able to provide a bylaw if that is the desire of council to address the issue of dark sky lighting. The recommendation of this report is to start with a policy perspective. We have to understand that the enforcement of this bylaw would be somewhat difficult if that was the path that council chose to take, in the sense that one person's perception of what may be considered a nuisance in terms of lighting may be different from someone else on their own perception basis. So enforcement through what has been described through the Planning Act documents and engineering standards is one caveat with which we can address the issue to start, rather than with a heavy-handed regulatory approach. If that makes sense, I'm happy to clarify further. Thank you.
Anything further, Councillor Townsend?
Yes, please, just to follow up. Has there been any municipalities that we've been able to speak to that have gone the regulatory route and what their experience has been?
Planner Spencer, please.
Thank you. Through you, Madam Mayor. The town of Muskoka Lakes actually does have a bylaw that's been, they've been doing this for a long time. They did not start with the bylaw in their beginning of dark sky lighting. They do have certain regulatory components. A certain area of Muskoka Lakes known as Torrance does have a complete dark sky requirement in that conservation area, so to speak. And I'm using very general terms in that sense. However, they didn't adopt an actual bylaw coming into effect until 2014, but they did start their dark sky policy review, back in early 2000. I had to have the benefit of working with Muskoka Lakes for a time period, and I do understand the efforts and work that went into that. And I do believe the municipality can come to that point, but I think starting with slow policy with respect to new plans of subdivision and new development, and having that procrastinate, perpetuate further, so that certainly whenever the municipality is considering replacement of lights, setting the example by replacing those lights with dark sky compliant fixtures at the time they need to be replaced, versus an enforcement of an outright call for everyone to be dark sky compliant at once. I understand your perspective, but it does involve staff, and quite frankly, at this point in time, we don't have municipal staff that are capable in terms of workload to go out and identify that this is not compliant, and that would be a bylaw enforcement issue. And working on a complaint basis, it would be very difficult to implement this at this level at this point in time. I do think the municipality can get there to an extent, but I think we need to start in stages, and that would be my recommendation, but I'm happy to clarify further. Thank you.
Councillor Townsend.
No, thank you, Madam Mayor. That's everything.
Thank you. Councillor Hutchinson.
Yeah, so I understand, I hear from our general public about the concerns. I understand that. I've actually been down to see some of the festivals that go on around this at our campgrounds. But I think, as our planner has said, I think it's important that we start with the education part of it. And I think as time goes on, especially with energy conservation, that this will become more of an issue in time, and I think this policy will be a step in the right direction. And I agree, it can't get there overnight, but I think it will come in time. But there are areas of concern out there for sure. Some people don't understand it. That's why I think education is important. So that's all I'd like to say at this time. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Hergert.
Thank you. So this is a staff report coming to us. Have we had a recommendation from the Dark Sky Committee to endorse it, to make any changes, anything like that?
Planner Spencer, please.
Thank you. And through you, Madam Mayor, I will defer to the CIO. I know the current situation with respect to the committee and all that has been happening with the pandemic. I'm not sure how much they've been meeting, but we certainly have been conferring with them. And this report was made available when the agenda was published for their review and response. And I think you've heard from some of those members this evening as well. So I will defer the balance of that to Madam CIO. Thank you.
Thank you, Planner Spencer. Over to you, Madam CIO.
Thank you, Mayor Robinson. I haven't much to add to what Planner Spencer has said. As Council will recall, the delegation from Ms. Radcliffe was by the way, thank you very much for your kind comments, Marion. But the correspondence and the engagement between her as the chair of the Dark Sky and staff has been nothing but stellar. So we look forward to continuing working with them as we continue on this initiative. But at this point, I believe we have their support. And once they get to meet again, we look forward to bringing them back to the table.
Anything further?
This will be placed in a package or so to be distributed to anyone getting a building permit. Is that how we're going to roll out the education piece?
Madam CIO, will you be taking that question, or do I go back to Planner Spencer?
Through Mayor Robinson, I'm happy to let the planner take this on. She's really taking the lead on this file. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Planner Spencer, please.
Thank you. And through you, Madam Mayor. So whenever a developer comes in for a large-scale subdivision, the previous clerk had put together an education piece that was provided to that developer with respect to international dark sky compliance. And that's always been a part of what's been going on for the past few years. It hasn't gotten to the point of being distributed at the building permit stage. That's a little bit more intricate than I think the municipality is at this point in time. Obviously, it would be nice if the building code could incorporate the requirement for dark sky lighting and have that as a building code requirement, so that at the time of building permit issuance, that is what is required in its code. We're not there yet. But there is that package that is provided to developers to educate them and make them aware of what the municipality desires going forward. I'm happy to clarify further. Thank you.
Councillor Hergert, thank you.
That's all at this time. Thank you.
Okay, Councillor Hamilton then, please.
Thanks, Mayor Robinson. And I just want to extend a big thank you to staff and the citizens and how you were able to collaborate through this pandemic and bring the report forward tonight. It was really great to see that collaboration. So thanks for all those efforts. I did jot down a question that came from one of the citizens during comment period, and it was regarding a question about commercial lighting and if commercial lighting will be addressed in the policy development. Thank you.
Planner Spencer.
Thank you. And through you, Madam Mayor. So as some of the tools that I've mentioned in this report and a general overview, not only are plans of subdivision going to be subject, and typically there is a lighting clause within that subdivision agreement, and that's been longstanding. The wording needs to be finessed to express that it shall be dark sky compliant. In terms of those commercial properties, as part of the official plan review, there will be a policy that states that it shall be subject to site plan control. And through the site plan control process, it's the smaller version of a subdivision agreement, which will have the same clause with respect to what that is. Now, retroactively going back to those commercial properties that aren't developing is a different story, but starting with those that are, we can certainly make that more compliant going forward. And the others will fall into place. And like I said, hopefully at some point in time, we may find that there might be some changes to the code that require that everything is dark sky compliant, but that's kind of outside of the purview of local council. But hopefully at some point in time, that becomes just the standard and the norm. I'm happy to clarify further. Thank you.
Anything further, Councillor Hamilton?
Thank you. I know that was really helpful. And so I understand that through the official plan process that we're going through, we'll see some of these policies in the official plan, and that'll be another opportunity for community to engage and comment. Correct, Planner Spencer? And maybe you could just paint a bit about that process that's coming up with the official plan, please.
So is that correct, Planner Spencer?
Thank you. And through you, Madam Mayor, certainly the best approach that I'm recommending coming through the official plan review is that policy refers to international standards, so that as those standards improve and get better, we are not required to change outdated policies in the official plan. We just continue to recommend that they meet that standard on a regular basis, so there's no changes that need to come forward. And so that is the recommendation that will come forward from staff. We can get into a little bit more of those finessed details through subdivision agreements and site plan control with respect to what that looks like. And if we know there's a commercial property, for example, that is adjacent to a residential one, we can certainly put those specific clauses into both of those types of agreements that would absolutely address what impact that may have on a residential or a separate type of land use property. So going back to that, we're currently in the process of issuing the official plan for comment, and that will be coming out shortly to agencies that have jurisdiction that are commenting. So we hope to bring this forward very shortly to council for their official review once those comments are received and come back. So that should happen in the next couple of months. Hopefully, if everything goes well, that is the plan. Thank you.
Thank you. Anything further, Councillor?
Excellent. No, thank you. I'm sorry. Yes, one more comment. I was just reflecting on another comment from another individual this evening about dark sky and regarding staffing and putting some budget behind this initiative. And I'd just like to share that in our draft budget, we are hiring an environmental coordinator within staff. So we'll have that lens and that capacity and expertise to assist with an environmental initiative like dark sky initiatives. And we're also drafting a new climate action plan for West Grey as well. So another opportunity to weave in dark sky initiatives. So I do see this moving forward with some momentum now. And I, again, thank you for all the efforts between community and staff on this. Thanks, Mayor Robinson.
Thank you. I'm not seeing any other questions. Clerk Sherbet, could you please read the motion at hand and I'll call the vote.
Through you, Mayor, moved by Deputy Mayor Hutchinson and seconded by Councillor Hamilton, that council receives the report Dark Sky Lighting Proposed Municipal Policy, and further that council approve the recommendation to incorporate the dark sky lighting principles throughout municipal planning documents, including the official plan and engineering standards.
All those in favor indicate with a raised hand. 6 members of council have voted in favor of the motion. The motion is carried. 11.1.2, Coolis, request to purchase municipal lands. Clerk Sharbeck to the recommendation, please.
Through you, Mayor, the recommendation is that council receives Planner Spencer's report and that council hereby declares the identified road allowance between lots 50 and 51, concession to SDR Glen Elg, surplus to the needs of the municipality, and the council directs staff to proceed with the disposition of lands pursuant to the municipality's land disposal bylaw.
Is there a mover for this motion? Councillor Townsend. Is there a seconder for this motion? Councillor Hutchinson. Any questions on the motion? Councillor Hamilton, then Councillor Hutchinson.
Just one quick question, please, for our planner. Would the Conservation Authority be considered an adjacent landowner to the north of the property? And will they be circulated the next steps of this process? Thank you.
Planner Spencer.
Yeah, through you, Madam Mayor. That's a very valid question, Councillor Hamilton, and certainly as an adjacent landowner to the roadway, with the method that's being proposed at this point in time, they have been consulted initially and they will continue to be advised of the process going forward. So we do have to follow those land disposal guidelines with respect to the bylaw that's in place. So they will definitely continue to be notified going forward. Thank you.
Anything further, Councillor? No? All right. Councillor Hutchinson then.
Yeah, and that was basically my concern when we talked about this, is what did the Conservation Authority still have access to Moss Lake? And they have access, and public have access from Highway 4 south to the lake. So given that this property owner owns property on both sides of this road allowance and it has been closed for years, it's probably a good way to go. Thank you.
Thank you. So that was a statement. That's just fine. Any other comments? Councillor Townsend.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Through you to Madam Planner. I wonder, your report had a choice as to whether or not we sold just the portion of the road allowance that was adjacent to that 50 and 51 lots, and or we could sell it all. But the recommendation doesn't address that. So how would you proceed without that specific point in the motion as it's currently worded?
Planner Spencer.
Yes, thank you. And through you, Madam Mayor, to Councillor Townsend. So in the identification and executive summary of the report, it's a complete description of that road allowance that exists now. I will note, and I apologize if the clarity wasn't clear in my wording, but the ability to pass between the conservation lands and this unopened road allowance is in fact almost impassable based on topography and the existing geography of the lands. So the potential for that roadway to be sold as an entire entity causes problems. So the most common approach would be for the adjacent landowners of 50 and 51 to accept those lands into their own parcel. And the conservation component, I mean, certainly I don't want to open up this for discussion at this point in time, but those lands that are on the unopened road allowance could be provided to the Conservation Authority for their own use, which I believe they're being used for that purpose now, but that's a discussion for another day. But it doesn't benefit this individual landowner to have that entire road allowance. It doesn't make sense in this respect for that to be completed. I'm happy to clarify further.
Anything further, Councillor?
Just to say it differently, if you don't mind, Madam Mayor. So what you're really saying is that this intended is just to put for sale that portion of land which is adjacent to the current owners of 50 and 51.
Is that correct, Planner Spencer?
Thank you. Through you, Madam Mayor. If that is the will and direction of council, that is what makes the most logical sense and would be my professional recommendation at this point in time, rather than muddy the waters and sell the entire road allowance when we know that that portion is impassable and not appropriate at this point in time for their use. Thank you.
Okay, Councillor.
So I'm wondering, do we need to be that specific in the motion then to make it clear for the direction to you?
I'm look to Planner Spencer or Clerk Sharbuck. Is the motion at hand the clarifying enough? Planner Spencer?
Thank you through you, Madam Mayor. I would recommend that if this was to appease council and provide some direction and comfort, we could identify that the road allowance between lots 50 and 51 to the northern extent of the individual who's requested the lands, that would be an appropriate direction. However, I do believe it still equates to what, the portion of the lands equates to 2 meters, and that's in the executive summary. So something from that executive summary would provide clarity, but I think we understand if this motion is passed and you accept the report that executive summary is included in that. So I don't believe the motion necessarily needs to be amended to provide further direction unless there's the desire.
Okay. All right, Councillor Townsend.
Thank you.
Councillor Hutchinson, your second time speaker. So is there any other first time speakers on this? Then go ahead, Councillor Hutchinson.
Just notice on the executive summary, it does say that the applicant is interested in purchasing the road allowance from south line to the north extent of their property. So they're not asking for any more than just to the end of their property. So.
All right, thank you for the clarification. Clerk Sharbuck, could you please read the motion at hand and then I'll call the vote?
Mayor, the motion moved by Councillor Townsend and seconded by Councillor Hutchinson is that council receives Planner Spencer's report and that council declares the identified road allowance between lots 50 and 51, concession to STR Glen Elg, surplus to the needs of the municipality, and that council directs staff to proceed with the disposition of land pursuant to the municipality's land disposal bylaw.
All those in favor indicate with a raised hand. 6 members of council have voted in favor. The motion is carried. Item 12, questions. In accordance with the West Grey procedural bylaw, members request clarification or updates on previous agenda items. Is there anything, members of council? Councillor Hamilton.
Thanks, Mayor Robinson. Just a question for our CAO about the OPP costing, if she could provide an update on the process and the information gathering and approximate timeline. Thank you.
Madam CAO, please.
Thank you, Mayor Robinson. Thank you, Councillor Hamilton, for the opportunity to provide an update. I have been in regular communication with 2 members of the OPP organization. We're still in the process of gathering information, arranging for a site visit. I have a meeting scheduled with them next Friday to review timelines, so I'd be happy to bring an update to council after that.
Anything further, Councillor?
No, thank you for the update.
Thank you. Deputy Mayor, please.
Thank you, Mayor Robinson, and through you to Councillor Hamilton. Just wondered, Councillor Hamilton, if you had the opportunity to speak to SMART and to the library just on the minutes, when they were coming in batch, you were going to check on that. I just wonder if I could have that update, please. Thank you.
Councillor Hamilton, do you have a response at this time or would you have a response later? It's up to you, please.
Oh, thank you, Mayor Robinson. Thank you, Deputy Mayor, for the question. I did share that feedback with both boards. And so the library board, I believe, oh goodness, now I have to remember what the answer was. I think it was just timing in terms of Christmas and getting the minutes signed, and then just the Christmas schedule and our council schedule. So it was just a timing issue. And for the Elmwood board, we have a new chair and we have a new recording secretary. So I think moving forward, you'll see them more regular as well. So thanks for that question.
Okay.
Anything further, Deputy? No, thank you, Mayor Robinson, and thank you, Councillor Hamilton.
Anything further, members of council? I do have a quick question then. At our last meeting, there was a resolution passed for West Grey Council to respectfully request the West Grey Police Services Board to meet to talk about service levels. I just would like clarification, please. Is that for a special meeting of council, or was it to have the members of council attend the West Grey Police Services Board meeting and it be an item on the agenda? I'm just looking for which one you wish to do, not looking to get into huge discussion on it, just the type of meeting you're looking for. Is it just a special meeting of council? Councillor Hergert, comment?
I believe it was a motion that I moved. I most certainly was hoping to open dialogue with the police service board, if that should be at one of your regularly scheduled police service board meetings or one of our regularly scheduled meetings. Even some sort of joint meeting where we just talk about the levels of service and the opportunity for costing for adequate and effective policing. And so now we have Owen Sound presenting us with a possibility.
Councillor, we're just dealing with the one item. We're just dealing with this one. So Clerk Sherbuck, based on what Councillor Hergert has said with regard to a meeting, what is your comment on that, please?
The resolution was for a joint meeting with council and the police services board to discuss service levels. So that is the complete resolution that was passed. However, I guess I still don't know, is that a council meeting? Like a special council meeting or a board meeting or separate altogether?
Okay, Councillor Hergert.
Yes, so if we have a majority, a quorum of council, that would need to be a council meeting, correct?
We could do, okay.
No.
Clerk Sherbuck, could you please assist with this? Just looking for a pathway on the type of meeting, and then we'll know.
It's completely up to council what the request is. Is it to invite the board members to a special council meeting, or is it, it could be a board meeting that council attends, as it wouldn't be at a regular meeting where decisions are being made to further the business of the municipality, if it's a discussion about service levels. But it does, I guess it matters who sets the agenda and what procedural bylaws followed and what role people have at that meeting. So either one, it's just council's wish. It wasn't clear in the resolution.
Okay.
It's fine with me.
So I'm still posing the question, is it a special meeting of council, or does council wish to come to a West Grey Police Services Board meeting? Councillor Hergert, anything further before I go to Councillor Townsend?
Yes, I think it could be a joint council, like it would have to be a special council meeting, the opportunity to go into closed session if needed. I really want the communication we're trying to bridge to that board.
Okay, so you're saying special council meeting. Councillor Townsend?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I had the same impression, and it should be the only topic on the agenda so that we don't get distracted or try to put a time limit other than what the time window of the meeting is. And that way we, like I said, we focus on the point.
Okay, thank you. Any other members of council? Looks like a special meeting of council. Okay, I'm seeing some heads nod. Thank you. Clerk Sherbuck, does that provide the clarity? It provides me clarity. It sounds like it's a special meeting of council. Is there anything further you need to glean from my question before we move on?
No, it's council's wish, however you'd like to proceed.
Okay, so it will be a special meeting of council then, I'm seeing. Thank you very much. All right, are there any other questions on item number 12? Thank you. 13, bylaws. 13.1, bylaw 11-2022, appoint members of various boards, committees, and authorities. Clerk Sherbuck, to the recommendation, please.
Through you, Mayor, the recommendation is that bylaw 11-2022, being a bylaw to appoint members to the various boards, committees, and authorities in the municipality of West Grey, be read a first, second, and third and final time, and I will add as amended. There are a few names to remove. and a few names to add before we, let council know the original bylaw has been updated. The following changes have been made. Courtney Hunter has been added to Gardens and Green Spaces. Bill Timmons has been removed from the Glen Elk Hall Committee. Doug Ray has been added to the Trail Committee. Jamie Doherty and Doug Townsend have been removed from the Economic Development Committee. Roger Gannon has been removed from the Dark Sky Committee, and Bev Falco has been removed from the Climate Action Committee. Those were all decisions of council or resignations from the members that were already on file and just were missed in the draft of the bylaw that went in the package. So we can proceed as amended and know that those amendments have been made to the original.
Thank you. Is there a mover for this motion? Deputy Mayor, and seconder, I saw Councillor Hamilton. Any questions on the motion at hand? Does anyone need it read again? All those in favor indicate with a raised hand. 6 members of council have voted in favor of the motion. The motion is carried. 13.2 Bylaw 12-2022 Hazardous and Special Products Waste Program Municipal Participation Agreement. Clerk Sherbeck to the recommendation.
Through Mayor, the recommendation is that Bylaw 12-2022, being a bylaw to authorize a hazardous and special waste program municipal participation agreement between the municipality of West Grey and the city of Owen Sound, be read a first, second, and third and final time.
Is there a mover for this motion? Councillor Townsend, and as a seconder, Councillor Hutchinson. Any questions on the motion at hand? Councillor Townsend.
Through you, Madam Mayor, just one question of clarity. I assume therefore there will not be any meetings, or sorry, any opportunities locally at the community center. It looked like they were all going to be in Owen Sound. Is that correct? Whoever can answer that, please.
Yes, we'll go to our Director of Infrastructure and Public Works, Director Glazier. Welcome. Just your mic, please. Thank you.
My apologies, Madam Mayor. Councillor Townsend, is my understanding that there's going to be still a community West Grey host. At least it was in the past, in late May, early June, I believe. We have yet to set a date, and I will consult with my staff on that, because that's one thing that we need to get scheduled and let the community know.
Anything further, Councillor Townsend?
No, thank you very much.
Any other questions? Anyone need the motion read again? Seeing none, all those in favor of the motion at hand, please raise your hand. 6 members of council have voted in favor of the motion. The motion is carried. 13.3 Bylaw 13-2022, confirming the proceedings of council. Clerk Sherbeck to the recommendation, please.
Through Mayor, the recommendation is that Bylaw 13-2022, being a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of council, be read a first, second, and third and final time.
Is there a mover for this motion? Deputy Mayor, is there a seconder for this motion? Councillor Hamilton, thank you. Questions? All those in favor indicate with a raised hand. 6 members of council have voted in favor of the motion. The motion is carried. Item 14, new business. There's the first 2 are just notices that I will read. So 14.1, notice 2022 budget bylaw. West Grey Council hereby gives notice of its intention to pass a bylaw to adopt the 2022 budget at the regular council meeting to be held March 15th, 2022 at 6 p.m. The second notice is under 14.2, notice, water and sewer bylaw. West Grey Council hereby gives notice of its intention to pass a bylaw to change the water and sewer rates at the regular council meeting to be held on March 15th, 2022 at 6 p.m. 14.3, notice of motion, pride flag. Moved by Councillor Hamilton. Councillor Hamilton, would you like to read your motion, or would you like the clerk to read it?
I'll read it, Mayor Robinson. Thank you. That the pride flag be flown at the municipal office for 2 weeks beginning June 1st. Thank you.
Is there a seconder for this motion? Deputy Mayor, any questions on the motion? All those in favor indicate with a raised hand. 6 members of council have voted in favor. The motion is carried. 14.4, notice of motion, Year of the Garden 2022, moved by Councillor Hamilton. Councillor, I expect you'd like to read this. If that is the case, please go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor Robinson, and I apologize for the length. Okay, whereas the Year of the Garden 2022 celebrates the centennial of Canada's horticulture sector, and whereas gardens and gardening contribute to the quality of life of our municipality and create safe and healthy places where people can come together. And whereas the Year of the Garden 2022 will highlight and celebrate the important contribution of gardeners, our local gardening organizations, horticultural professionals, and local horticultural businesses, which contribute to vibrant garden culture and create legacies for a sustainable future. And whereas gardens and gardening have helped us face the challenges of the COVID pandemic. And whereas Communities in Bloom, in collaboration with the Canadian Garden Council, invites all municipalities to celebrate the Year of the Garden. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the municipality of West Grey hereby proclaims 2022 as the Year of the Garden, in celebration of the contribution of gardens and gardening to the development of our country, our towns and cities, and the lives of Canadians in terms of health, quality of life, reconciliation, inclusion, and environmental challenges. And that the municipality of West Grey is committed to be a garden-friendly municipality and is proud to have many volunteers that contribute to our pollinator and community gardens. And that Saturday before Father's Day, June 18th in 2022, be recognized as Garden Day in the municipality of West Grey as a legacy of Canada's Year of the Garden 2022. And that the municipality of West Grey fly the Year of the Garden flag at the municipal office for 1 week beginning June 16th, 2022. And that municipal staff work with the Gardens and Green Spaces Advisory Committee to explore other opportunities to promote and celebrate the Year of the Garden. And that all municipalities across Canada be invited to proclaim 2022 to be the Year of the Garden in their respective municipalities, that a copy of this resolution be provided to the FCM and Communities in Bloom.
Is there a seconder for this motion? Councillor Hergert, are there any questions on the motion? All those in favor indicate with a raised hand. 6 members of council have voted in favor of the motion. The motion is carried. We're now moving on to 14.5. There's a notice of motion for an open budget discussion, but Councillor, that's moved by Councillor Townsend. But Councillor Townsend, I see 14.5 and 14.6 potentially are in opposition here. So I'm just wondering, I'm seeking clarity in terms of, are these both to be addressed, or is there one that you wish to address and not the other? I'm just seeking clarity for council. So the first one, 14.5, notice of motion, open budget discussion. Could you comment, please, Councillor?
Yeah, thank you, Madam Mayor. Excuse me. The first one is really to say if there's any other ideas people have to do it. So yes, I still wanted to do that one. And the second one is really intended to be focused on a particular point if no one else has one.
So, okay, so they're both stand then, is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. So with 14.5, notice of motion, open budget discussion, moved by Councillor Townsend. Would you care to read your motion, or do you want the clerk to read it?
I'll read it, that's fine.
Go ahead, please.
Yeah, move that council agree to open the budget discussion one final time in order to review possible options to bring the 2022 budget increase to less than 7%.
Is there a seconder for this motion? Councillor Hergert. Clerk Sharbeck, I am asking for a recorded vote, please. Are there any questions with regard to this motion? Councillor Hutchinson.
Yeah, I won't be voting in favor of this just because I'm not real happy with the 7% either, but we spent a lot of time on this. We've thrown out all kinds of opportunities. We've increased some staff. We've done a number of things. I don't see us getting it down anymore based on the circumstances we're in. It's not great given that we're coming out of a pandemic, but I'm not sure how much longer we can spend on it given that we've been working on it for a few months now. So I think we have to go ahead with it. You know, people have pointed out to me as we talked about budget that sometimes we just have to make decisions and move forward, and we can't always reuse reserves and go back. So I'm thinking that we have to move forward and bite the bullet and live with what we got, and hopefully the economy is going to pick up and next year will look better. Thank you.
Thank you. Deputy Mayor?
Thank you, Mayor Robinson. I too am not going to support this motion. I think we worked really hard in the meetings there to get to where we were. And I do echo what Councillor Hutchinson said. You know, I wasn't satisfied at 7 where we arrived, but we do need to move on. We've only got one meeting in March, and this is going to put us into April. And what I'd really like to do is get this completed, and then the staff can get going on you know, a lot of the things we're trying to put together. So I will not be supporting that. Thank you.
Councillor Townsend?
Okay, thank you.
Pardon me?
So I'm okay at this time. Thank you.
Councillor Hamilton?
Oh, thank you, Mayor Robinson. I just have a clarifying question. This might be directed at Councillor Townsend. I'm not sure, but my clarifying question is this motion intended to open up the discussion right now in this meeting, or is this motion intended to have another budget meeting? I'm just seeking clarity. So I suppose if I may, through you, Mayor Robinson, seek that clarity through to Councillor Townsend. Thank you.
Yes, thank you. Councillor Townsend, please. And I just want to note that Councillor Shea has arrived. Councillor Townsend, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. It was not intended to have yet another meeting. It is intended to come to some agreement today, if we can, which means it does not delay the schedule. It means it can move forward for March 15th. I'm very sensitive to that. It's not appropriate to delay it if we can avoid it. I was disappointed that we kind of ran to the end of the last budget meeting and really didn't get to discuss the other item. I thought about bringing the next motion forward at that meeting, but it wouldn't have had fruitful discussion. So I didn't do it at that time. I'm doing it now. Thank you.
I'm going to suggest that if we do open up the budget discussion, that it become another meeting. There's no notice that we're providing to all of our citizens that we're opening up the discussion, unless it is just specific to the one item that is listed below. Otherwise, that is something that I feel that our members of the public need to know if it's going to open up the discussion. So I just want clarity from Councillor Townsend that it is specific to the one item. Just following through on what Councillor Hamilton has said.
The first motion gets defeated and we don't have a discussion, then it would be only the one item in 14.6.
Thank you. Anything further, Councillor Hamilton? Okay. Are there any other questions? Clerk Sharbeck, to the recorded vote, please.
Councillor Townsend, how do you vote?
In favor?
I believe I saw Councillor Shea as well.
In favor?
Okay, thank you. Councillor Hamilton?
Yes.
Councillor Hergert?
Councillor Hergert, yes.
Mayor Robinson?
Not in favor.
Deputy Mayor Hutchinson?
Not in favor.
Councillor Hutchinson?
Not in favor.
And that motion is carried.
So now we move on to 14.6, notice of motion, specific budget, a reduction request moved by Councillor Townsend. Would you care to read it?
Mayor, yes, I will. Move that council consider reducing the 2022 budget increase to less than 7% through a reduction to the amount described as new police building design, tendering, starting construction in fall on the capital budget project spreadsheet under Levy from 75,000 to 30,000. And I'd like to talk to that afterwards, please.
Thank you. Madam Clerk, I am asking for a recorded vote. Is there a seconder for this motion? Councillor Hamilton? Questions or comments beginning with Councillor Townsend?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Making that change will bring us down to approximately 6.6%. It's not a major change. If we decided to move forward, I'm sure we could find the dollars if we had to, because it is on pause right now. And so my feeling is that at least we give a further break to our residents, given the fact that we're coming out of COVID and there's other pressures, not to mention the water and sewer, which is fairly significant and not included in the 7% already. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Hutchinson?
Just point of clarity then. So if we vote, if this passes to bring it down to 6.6, does that mean we're not having another budget meeting? Or that's still meaning that we've voted to open it up? We're looking at another budget meeting besides this motion.
Clerk Scharbeck?
Through you, Mayor, my understanding was that it wasn't a desire for another council meeting, that it was to allow going forward with this one item change on the budget. And perhaps I misunderstood that.
Is that correct, Councillor Townsend?
Yes, as I said earlier, if the first one fails to have an open discussion, then we would defer to this one.
Over to you, Councillor Hutchinson.
Okay, that's fine. I just wanted to clarify that. Thank you.
Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Mayor Robinson. And if I could ask through you to Treasurer Mighton, I believe in the budget meetings that this 75 was actually kind of needed to kind of process. So I was wondering if Director Mighton could just comment on that, please.
Director Mighton, please.
Yes, through you, Madam Mayor. We haven't received the final bill for the balance of the design, get it to the point where we were ready for the tendering. So we are waiting for that final bill. Then the next sort of portion of the service would be the contract supervision. So until that is initiated, we wouldn't have the balance of that contract until that starts, depending on when the building is unpaused.
Anything further, Deputy? Any other questions? Clerk Scharbeck, over to you for the recorded vote, please.
On the second notice of motion, specific to the reduction for the police building design tendering, starting construction in the fall. Councillor Hamilton, how do you vote?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Hutchinson?
Not in favor.
Councillor Shea?
Yes.
Mayor Robinson?
Not in favor.
Councillor Hergert?
Councillor Hergert, yes.
Councillor Hutchinson?
Not in favor.
Councillor Townsend?
In favor.
And that motion is carried.
Item 15, announcements. In accordance with the West Grey procedural bylaw, comments are not debatable, nor shall they introduce new business. Comments shall be limited to 5 minutes per member. Are there any announcements, members of council? Seeing none. Item 16, closed session.
Point of personal privilege, Mayor
I
Robinson.
saw you. Yes, I saw you. Please go ahead. Councillor Hamilton.
I'm sure you can anticipate. I would like to move that we take a 10-minute recess. Thank you.
Okay. 10 minutes. Would there be a seconder for this motion, Councillor Townsend? Thank you for that. Seconder Townsend. All those in favor of, oh, actually, Clerk Scharbeck, will you read it back? Sorry, keep with the process.
Through Mayor, moved by Councillor Hamilton and seconded by Councillor Townsend, that council takes a 10-minute recess at, it looks like 10:36 p.m.
All those in favor indicate with a raised hand. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Councillor Shay? I've not seen him. Councillor Shay?
In favor.
In favor. Motion is carried. Seven members of council carried. See you back at 7:46. Enjoy your break. Thank you. All right, members of council and staff, we are at 7:46. Could we please have the gallery view? And I just want to see that we have all members of council. Councillor Hamilton, are you there? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Councillor Shea, are you there?
Yes, I am, Your Worship. Thank you.
Thank you. So we have the members of council. Madam CIO, do you have the staff you require?
Yes, Mayor Robinson, thank you.
Thank you. So Councillor Hergert, your hand is up.
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. I would like to go back to an item that we have previously discussed in this agenda. I don't believe that it requires a reconsideration, but I believe that I would like to bring a separate motion forward. And this relates to the correspondence received from the City of Owen Sound, 10.1.2. There was a motion that...
We've addressed the matter. So I believe the matter would be a reconsideration, but I would go to Clerk Scharbeck for that. Clerk Scharbeck?
Through you, Your Worship, I'm just looking back here at the motion that was made at that time was to have a meeting with Owen Sound and invite Hanover as well. So Councillor Hergert, is that a reconsideration? We'll put that exact motion before council again. Is that your intention?
I would not like that specific motion. I would like a different motion presented, please.
Well, we've dealt with the issue. We've already dealt with the issue. So there isn't Clerk Scharbeck, that would not be appropriate at this time. Your procedural point, please.
I would put that to the wish of council. If there's a majority vote to go back to this matter on the agenda, then at that time, the next item up could be this matter on the agenda. So it's not really a motion to reconsider the motion, but a motion perhaps to reconsider the agenda item. That would need, if it's council's wish and there's a majority vote, to go back and revisit that agenda item, then Councillor Hergert, you would propose a new motion at that time. Is that what you're thinking?
Yes, the correspondence actually asked for council to consider allowing Owen Sound Police Service the opportunity to provide a costing proposal to West Grey for their police services. And my motion would be similar to that we would allow the municipality of Owen Sound to provide a costing to West Grey for policing services.
But we haven't got back to that item yet. So, so that's the first piece.
So Clerk Scharbeck,
to do so.
Clerk Scharbeck, procedurally, what would be the motion that would be considered by council?
It's whatever a member chooses to move. If they get a seconder, if they'd like to revisit item number, I'm not sure. Okay. 10.1.2 regarding correspondence from the City of Owen Sound. That's something, if somebody moved it, it's entirely up to that member.
Thank you, Clerk Scharbeck. How do you wish to proceed, Councillor Hergert?
So I would like to move a motion that council would obtain or receive, the council would receive a costing from the municipality of Owen Sound to provide.
Oh, Councillor Hergert, there's a step that we need to take prior to that. But Councillor Hamilton, was that something that you were wishing to address?
Yes, thank you, Mayor Robinson. I think the first motion, if I may, through you, Mayor Robinson, would be a motion to reconsider the item, and I would move that. So I'll move that we reconsider item 10.1.2. Thank you.
Reconsider or revisit?
Whatever the appropriate wording is.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
We'll go to Clerk Sherbeck for the wording and then come back to you. Thank you. So moved by Councillor Hamilton. Clerk Sherbeck, if you could read back the motion at hand.
Moved by Councillor Hamilton that Council reconsiders agenda item 10.1.2, correspondence from the City of Owen Sound.
Councillor Hamilton, are you fine with the wording? Yes. Is there a seconder for this motion? Councillor Hamilton, Councillor Hergert. Any questions? Oh, actually not on the. Clerk Sherbeck, is there an ability for questions of clarity on the reconsideration motion here?
No, it's,
Right.
Do you want to reconsider this item? Yes or no?
Thank you. All those in favor indicate with a raised hand. 1, 2, 3, 4. All those opposed, raise your hand. 3. The motion is carried 4-3. Over to you, Councillor Hergert.
So in the correspondence that we did receive, the motion that I would like to bring is that we do allow the municipality of Owen Sound to provide costing to West Grey Police, to the municipality of West Grey for policing services.
We'll have Clerk Sherbeck read back the language in the motion. I'll just confirm with you, Councillor Hergert, on that, and then I'll look for a seconder.
Your Mayor, moved by Councillor Hergert, the council does allow the City of Owen Sound to provide costing for police services in West Grey.
Is there a seconder for this motion? Oh, hang on. I'm sorry. I did say I'd go back to you, Councillor Hergert. I do apologize. The language on the motion.
Yes, if we could put a deadline there, we would give them, I'll put in a date by April 15th. That we would
Clerk
put a
Sherbeck?
timeline on their costing.
Like a month, 2 months from now?
Yes.
I don't know what timeline it may take them to provide a costing. So if it's not within that time, is that it?
I guess we would look forward to correspondence back saying it would be insufficient or need extension or so on.
So the council does allow the City of Owen Sound to provide costing for police services in West Grey by April 15th, 2022.
Yes, thank you.
Is there a seconder for this motion? Councillor Townsend. Clerk Sherbeck, I will ask for a recorded vote. Are there any comments on this motion? Deputy Mayor?
Thank you, Mayor Robinson. I don't understand. Like, how do we even know that? Like, there's some work that our police have to do with this too. So how are we handcuffing them, if you will, to have react to this by the 15th? I don't quite understand how that works. I would imagine there's some correspondence they have to exchange. So I am certainly not going to support this. Thank you.
Any other questions? Comments? Councillor Townsend?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. In response to that comment, we don't know what they can do, and therefore we need to ask. Owen Sound, I mean. And number two is we don't even know if it's possible because of boundaries. So by definition, at least we'll know those items, and if it can go forward, it'll go forward. If it doesn't, it won't. but the trick is we don't even know. I think it will be remiss not to look at another way of being able to provide local police services in the sense of non-OPP. So it does give us a third option, as I said earlier. And so from my perspective, I will support it.
Any other comments on the motion? Clerk Sharbuck, could you read, actually over to you for a recorded vote. Thank you.
Dear Mayor, were you asking me to read that again?
Yes, well, for the recorded vote, if you could read back the motion, but however you handle your recorded vote, it's just fine with me. Thank you.
Okay, moved by Councillor Herbert and seconded by Councillor Townsend. That council does allow the city of Owen Sound to provide a costing for police services in West Grey by April 15th, 2022. And Councillor Shea, how do you vote?
Yes.
Mayor Robinson?
Not in favor.
Councillor Hutchinson?
Not in favor again.
Councillor Hergert?
Councillor Hergert, yes.
Deputy Mayor Hutchinson?
Not in favor.
Councillor Hamilton?
Yes.
Councillor Townsend?
Councillor Townsend, yes.
And the motion is carried.
We are now moving on to item 16, closed session. Clerk Sharbuck, to the recommendation, please.
Dear Mayor, the recommendation is that the Council of the Municipality of West Grey does now go into a closed session at 7:58 p.m. with the CAO, Director of Administration Clerk, Director of Finance Treasurer, and Legislative Coordinator for the purpose of addressing pending acquisition or disposition of land by the municipality or local board, and personal matters about identifiable individuals, including municipal or local board employees.
Is there a mover for this motion? Deputy Mayor, is there a seconder for this motion? Councillor Townsend, any questions on the motion? All those in favor indicate with a raised hand. Councillor Shea, are you voting in favor? I see an electronic hand, but I'll need to know.
Yes, I'm in favor. Thank you.
7 members of council have voted in favor. The motion is carried. We will now go into closed session. Thank you.
Hi, Councillor Hamilton, did you need to be added back into the breakout room for closed session?
Yes, thank you. I got frozen, so thank you.
Sure, just bear with me 1 second.
Okay.
Hi, Councillor Townsend. Did you need to be re-added into closed session again?
Yes, I do. When I went into closed session, my mic failed. It said I didn't have one. I've got it back now, and Director White thinks she's fixed it on the other end.
Okay, I will add you back in. Just bear with me one moment.
Thank you.
Councillor Townsend, would you just be able to leave the meeting and rejoin? It won't let me add you back in the breakout room unless you leave.
Okay.
Thank you. I wonder if we could have the gallery view, please. Councillor Shea, are you also present? Madam CAO, do you have all the staff you require?
Yes, thank you, Mayor Robinson.
Thank you. And now, Councillor Shea, are you here?
I am, Mayor.
Thank you. All right, we have the 7 members of council and the staff. So we are now on item 17, report from closed session. I would like to report that in closed session, council addressed matters pertaining to a proposed or pending acquisition or disposition of land by the municipality or local board, and personal matters about an identifiable individual, including municipal or local board employees. I want to know if there's any motions at this point. Councillor Hamilton.
Thank you, Mayor Robinson. I'd like to move that council appoints the following members to committees of council. Jessica Pelchat to the Climate Action Advisory Committee, and Tyler Barlow to the West Grey Public Library Board.
Thank you. I'll go to Clerk Scharbeck for the language of the motion and confirm with you, and then I'll look for a seconder. Thank you.
Through Mayor, just as Councillor Hamilton moved, that council appoints Jessica Pelchak to the Climate Action Advisory Committee and Tyler Barlow to the West Grey Public Library Board.
The language okay, Councillor Hamilton? Very good. Is there a seconder for this motion? Councillor Hergert, any questions? All those in favor indicate with a raised hand. 6. Councillor Shea, how do you vote?
In favor.
7 members of council have voted in favor. The motion is carried. Item 18, adjournment. Clerk Scharbeck to the recommendation, please.
Through Mayor, the recommendation is that we do now adjourn at 9:10 p.m. to meet again on March 15th, 2022, or at the call of the chair.
Is there a mover for this motion? Deputy Mayor, is there a seconder for this motion? Councillor Hutchinson, all those in favor indicate with a raised hand. Councillor Shea, how do you vote?
In favor.
7 members of council have voted in favor. The motion is carried. We stand adjourned. Thank you very much, one and all.